ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا إنك أنت السميع العليم. في البداية اسمحوا لي أن أشكركم جميعا. I would like to thank you all to register and attend this presentation. First of all, I would like to introduce the IVBN regulatory brief and what is the IVBN and what's the benefits of IVBN. IVBN was founded as a listserv in 2012. As IVBN network covers all aspects of pharmacy practice, leadership, and research. In July 2020, IVBN network has started offering additional services and programs intended to reshape and transform the pharmacy practice in our region and beyond. IVBN network has a number of listservs led by experts, reporting to IVBN network President Dr. Osama Tabbara. And as my advice as a regulatory affairs person, I would like to invite you all to register in the list IVBN regulatory listserv that will help you to enhance your education, to enhance your information, to enhance your professional experience in major fields of pharmaceutical industry. Today, I would like to introduce our presenter, Dr. Aya. Dr. Aya Muhammad is an Egyptian pharmacist, graduated from Ain Shams University from Egypt with an excellent grade with honor. Dr. Aya started her career as a quality control laboratory specialized in viral vaccines at the Egyptian National Regulatory Authority. Then after that, she has moved to Sigmatic Sterile Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Company. It's a leading manufacturer and packaging of ampoules, vials, and eye drops in Egypt. To ensure timely delivery of finished product while ensuring implementation and enhancement of quality culture in the organization. Then after that, in 2015, Dr. Aya has moved to UAE to start a new chapter in her career path in quality of pharmaceutical products and medical devices in one of the best and leading logistic companies in this region, with the belief that quality is not only a job or function for a quality person, but it's also built in every process and in the responsibility of each and every single person working in pharmaceutical field. Dr. Aya has been certified by ISO 9001, 45001, 14001 auditor. In addition to the other courses, she has been certified in regulatory affairs, general data protection regulation, health, safety, security, and environment, compliance and ethics, and also, last but not least, cybersecurity awareness. So I would like to ask you to remain seated, take your coffee, relax, so you will enjoy this presentation because it's one of the most important presentation you may ever attend by today. Dr. Aya, the mic with you now.
Hi, Alaa. Good evening. Good evening, everyone, and thanks, Alaa, for the introduction. As Alaa has just mentioned, quality is not a function of the quality officer or the quality management. It is a shared responsibility with every single person handling the pharmaceutical product in its different stages. So to understand the quality concept, we need first to have an idea about the journey of the pharmaceutical product from its manufacturer till it reaches its end user or the patient. This begins with the manufacturing plant. It can be one or different manufacturing plants where the product is transferred from raw material into finished pharmaceutical products. It is then transported through the different transportation routes to what is called the central hub. It is also called MMW, multi-market warehouse or logistics service provider. This is a large warehouse that serves as a storage area till the products are further distributed to different markets in the region. These distributors are the first paying customers for the product. So in the central hub, it is still owned by the manufacturer, but when it reaches the distributor is now the owner of the product. As an example, a central hub in UAE can distribute to other markets like Gulf and Levant, Oman, Jordan, Lebanon, and the distributor can further distribute to hospital or pharmacist, then where it is administered by the end user or the patient. So the pharmaceutical quality assurance, it is the sum of all activities and responsibilities required to ensure that the medicine that reaches the patient is safe, effective, and acceptable to the patient. There is usually a confusion between what is quality assurance and what is quality control. Quality control is simply the testing, the laboratory testing, against certain specifications. So this testing is the part of the firm's process concerned with the sampling, specification, testing, and the organization's release procedure that ensure that necessary tests are carried out and that the materials are not released for use or products released for sale or supply until the quality has been judged satisfactory. So the tests are done against certain specification, and this product is not released until it meets this specification and within the accepted range. So to ensure the product quality, there are two main parts. First, to manufacture this product according to the GMP procedure, which means manufacturing safe and effective product. The other thing, to maintain this quality of the product during its transport and storage, which is following the good distribution and storage practices. By this way, we will comply with the global and local regulation and ensure that the product which reaches the patient is safe, effective, and of satisfactory quality. So we will start with GMP, then we talk about GSP and GDP. So in the manufacturing plant, the raw material and the excipients are transferred into bulk product. This means the bulk, it can be a solution before it is packed into bottles or into ampoules, or it can be powder before it is filled into vial. By adding the primary packaging material, which is the packaging material that is in direct contact with the product, we will have a semi-finished product. This is further packed with the leaflet and the outer carton till we obtain the finished pharmaceutical products. So, to ensure that the finished product is of the required quality, controls are measured and are taken into every step of the production. So these activities are collectively called the GMP. So GMP in this concept is the part of the quality assurance activities that ensures that the product are consistently produced and controlled to the quality standard appropriate to their intended use are required by the drug authority. Here, people who have different readings in GMP will find CGMP. So what is the GMP and the CGMP? C refers to current GMP version. It is the current or recent GMP guideline where the basic concepts remain the same, but it is changing with the development of new techniques. Earlier, there was signature log and there was data recording in the paper form. Now, we can have digital signature and this through validated system, and we can have electronic records. So after a time, the CGMP or current GMP with the development of technology becomes GMP and new technologies replace, and the new technologies becomes the current version. GMP includes criteria for personnel, facility, packaging, quality control, and in most cases, stability testing.
So, Dr. Aya, by this, as you clarified, we have principles of GMP, but we need to keep our eye on all developments and enhancements in the GMP to continue or to monitor the current updates for this GMP. So we should not stay on the only fundamentals or basics of GMP, we need to keep updated each and every time.
With the development of technology, there are always new versions. Another example is the balance. The weighing balance, which was used earlier, now we have electronic balance, and that we can have also a printout with this electronic balance, which usually gives more accuracy to the results. And as long as we reduce the impact of human intervention, and may move it to more electronic way, it is more accurate, and the errors are much less as well. For personnel, the personnel should be competent and regularly trained. They should be adequate in number, and they have clear job descriptions and responsibilities. Facilities are constructed to facilitate cleaning, maintenance, and operations as appropriate, and allow the flow of material and personnel without any mix-up or contamination. There should be separate area for the separate activities, area for receiving, area of storage, and the different manufacturing processes. Equipments are calibrated and maintained as per the preventive maintenance schedule. They should be easily cleaned and should not interact with the materials and the products used. There should be written procedure on how to operate these equipments. Records for the use or sterilization should be maintained. Documentation will also have a in-depth knowledge about the documentation in the second part of the session, where we will be handling good documentation practice. The issuance, revision, superseding, and withdrawal of all documents should be controlled with maintenance of the revision history. All the records should be retained till the end of the specific retention period, which is usually 1 year after the shelf life of the product. The batch records of manufacturing and packaging shall be approved by the quality before the product is released to the market. Packaging and labeling. All the materials and products should be labeled for identification. The status of the material and equipment should be reflected on the label. The material, we need to know this material, if it is still under quarantine, if it is rejected, or if it is approved and released. And the equipment, the status of the equipment, this can be cleaned, under maintenance, sterilized, and so on. Material management. Representative sample of the materials are tested for compliance to specification and stored as per the label storage condition until used to avoid any degradation of the products. And the supplier used for supplying these materials should be qualified and approved regularly. Here comes the lab control or the quality control, where the samples are tested against specifications. The testing is done for the raw materials, the bulk product, the semi-finished product, and the finished product. Also, the packaging materials are tested that complying to the specification to indicate if it is complying to the specification or not. Either it is primary or secondary material. For each batch of the production, there should be a certificate of analysis before it is, which indicates that it is compliant and approved for release. The production and the in-process control or the IPC. This is the test done in line during the production stage, the different stages of the production. It should be performed by qualified personnel to monitor the progress and control the performance of the processing steps. Sampling should be conducted using the procedures designed to prevent contamination of the sample material. Then comes the validation. The qualification has 4 stages, which is DQ, IQ, OQ, and PQ. DQ is the design qualification. This is a documented evidence that this machine or device is designed as per the design specifications. IQ is the installation qualification. These are test or activities done to ensure that the installation of the machine or equipment is as specification. It is installed in the correct way. As the drawings and the manual, the spare part and the vendor details are verified in this stage. The OQ is the operation qualification, which is a verification, documented verification that it is operating the system or the equipment is operating as expected. This can be through testing the alarms, the operational control, the switches, and the display. The PQ is the performance qualification. This can be tested also in real product during the inline production, where the performance is tested against the performance specification. There is also process validation, analytical method validation, and the cleaning validation. For this, we will know the definition for this in the coming slides. So by
Dr. Aya, installation qualification maybe could be done for software or it could be done for machine installed for a specific purpose.
Yeah, machines are qualified, even computer software must be validated before use.
You know, even softwares or whatever Windows has been installed for HPLC systems also should be qualified.
Yeah, sure. The software validation is there is computer system validation.
Yes, complying with 21 CFR.
Yeah, exactly. Validation, it is an essential part of the GMP. It is an element of the QA program associated with particular product or process to assure that the quality, safety, and efficacy are built in and by design. Each critical step in the process has to be validated to establish the confidence that the manufactured products will consistently meet their production specification, their product specification. So the validation versus qualification. These are of the same concept, where qualification is normally used for the equipment, for utilities and the system, and validation is used for the whole process. So the qualification, we can say the qualification is part of the validation. There are many documents for validation, some of which are these, the procedures used for the process to be validated, the specifications against which we compare the results we have, the qualification protocols and report or validation protocols and report, and the validation master plan. Here the protocol usually indicate and clarify the activities or tests to be done and the acceptance criteria of these tests. The reports will show the records, the calibration certificates of instruments used during the calibration, if any, the results that have been obtained, the evaluation summary, and the outcome if this validation has succeeded and met the criteria, or it has not, and if there is proposed action or further controls to be added to ensure that the product is well meeting the quality requirement. Also, there are other types of validation. There are many types of validation, but most commonly in manufacturer are the cleaning validation, process validation, and analytical method validation. Cleaning validation, this is a documented evidence to establish that the cleaning procedures are removing the residues to predetermined level of acceptance. We have a cleaning, if we have cleaning procedure, we need to make sure that this cleaning results in a clearing equipment. The number of final rinses is enough. There is no residues of the previous product used in this device or machine. The detergent used for cleaning, there is no traces of this detergent in the last rinse. For process validation, it is a documented evidence which provides high degree of assurance that a specific process will consistently result in a product that meets its predetermined specification and quality characteristic, which means that this process, when repeated in the same way, will give the same result with no deviation. And usually in the validation, sorry, we test the worst case scenarios, not only the happy flow, but we test the worst case scenario or challenge the process we have to ensure its validity. Analytical method validation. This is to ensure that the analytical procedure is suitable for the intended use. During the laboratory or the quality control, there are certain tests done using certain analytical methods on the raw material or the bulk or any stage of the production. So we need to ensure that by conducting this test using these analytical methods, the results will be reliable.
Dr. Aya, you told us that we have analytical method validation, process validation. So validation. So also cleaning, we need to make validation. So can you tell us and tell the participants why we need to make a cleaning validation? Well, also cleaning, we need to make validation. We are cleaning at home, but we didn't make validation for home. Maybe my wife sometimes making some validation after I cleaning. But you know, why we need cleaning validation in pharmaceutical industry? Maybe just to give us some more insights about this.
I'll give you an example. For example, a tank used for a preparation of product X.
Yes.
Okay. Then it will be cleaned and used for the preparation of product Y.
Yes.
How will you ensure that there is no traces of the product X in the preparation tank? Maybe you cleaned it, but you have not cleaned it well. Maybe the procedure mentions that you have to do 2 rinse, clean with a certain detergent and rinse twice. Maybe the rinsing twice is not enough to remove the traces or residues from the previous product. How would you ensure that it is clean? How would you ensure that there is no traces of the detergent you have used? How you ensure that all areas and we can say the parts which is difficult to clean, there is no nothing remaining there.
So as I understood, Doctor, you means that we have equipment in manufacturing area that we need to use it for 2 different products. I need to manufacture a product X, then I need to clean so I can start with a product Y. This is what I understood from your clarification. So this is the basic concept of a cleaning validation. Why we need to establish cleaning validation. One equipment, one instrument, as Dr. Aya said, that require 2 or 3 or 4 products to be manufactured using the same equipment. For sure, we could not make an equipment specific or for each and every product. So this is why the concept of cleaning validation came. Thank you, Dr. Aya. Sorry for disturbing you.
The next is the distribution. As we have mentioned, after the product is manufactured in 1 or more of the pharmaceutical plants, it is distributed or transported to different stage of its journey. Okay, so for distribution, we have good distribution practice guidelines. This is part of the quality assurance that ensures that the quality of pharmaceutical product is maintained by means of adequate control during the distribution process, as well as providing a tool to secure the distribution system from counterfeits, unapproved, illegally imported, stolen pharmaceutical products. So we need to ensure that the vehicles and the containers in which the product is transported are clean, dry, and free from accumulated wastes and pests. There must be of sufficient capacity to allow for orderly storage of the products, and the system used should be validated. The temperature, as you all know, that the pharmaceutical products undergo stability studies, and based on these, there have certain storage conditions. It can be stored below 30, below 25, to be stored in the refrigerator between 2 to 8, or it can be stored in the freezer. So we must maintain this temperature during the transport, and we should monitor this temperature to which the product is exported during its distribution. And these monitoring records should be kept for 1 year after the shelf life of the product transported. Also, these equipments used for the measuring of the temperature, either the data logger or whatever equipment used for measuring the temperature, should be calibrated at regular intervals. There also should be a written procedure in place for investigating and dealing with any failure to comply with these storage conditions, which means that if we have a temperature excursion, we need to investigate if a product is to be stored and transported in a temperature from 2 to 8. If the temperature reaches 10, we need to investigate what happened that leads to this deviation. The containers in which the products are shipped should be sealed, and this is for all pharmaceutical products. So as we have mentioned earlier, there are different distribution routes, such as road transport, where we use validated trucks. Air, we use unit loading device as shown in the picture. These are uploaded to the aircraft and used for the transport through air. For sea transport, we use validated reefer containers. So there are important parameters that should be taken into consideration during the transport of product. We need to know the start point, the end point, the nodes or cities or ports encountered during transport, the transit time for each leg of the trip, how the temperature controlling mechanism used, and the product storage condition. For example, a product manufactured in Europe is transported from the manufacturing plant by road transport to the airport. Then from the airport of that country of manufacture, it is transported, for example, to UAE for the central hub or MMW by air. Then it is then transported from the airport to the central hub by another truck, validated truck. Then it is transferred to the distributor in one of the Gulf countries by sea transport. So every from one port to another, this is called a leg of the trip. This is what is meant by the leg, and the transit time of each leg of the trip is important. Cold chain, this is part of the supply chain concerned with the movement of chilled products, which have temperature between 2 to 8 or even lower, reaching the range of -70 degrees, such as the COVID-19 vaccine for Pfizer. The storage condition is -70 degrees. We have mentioned earlier the shipping system. So here we need to understand what is the shipping system types. There is active shipping system and passive system. The active system, in which we use electricity or fuel to maintain the required temperature. As we have mentioned, the reefer truck, it is active shipping system. The passive shipping system, these are systems which we do not use any source of fuel or electricity. It has insulated design used to conserve the material or product at a particular temperature for a certain amount of payload capacity over a specific period of time. So for each passive packing, we need to know the temperature that is required to be maintained, the payload, and how long will this passive system can maintain the temperature. If it can maintain it for 3 days, 5 days, even 7 days, this differs from one passive pack to another. It usually consists, as you can see, it simply consists of 2 components: insulation material, which is usually polystyrene, polyurethane, or vacuum insulated panels that creates a barrier between the internal and external environment, and phase changing material, this which reacts to internal temperature and cause temperature changes. It is simply a shipper case which has the barriers and what is called the phase changing material. We call it sometimes briquette. It can be chilled briquette and frozen briquette. The arrangement of the briquette is different from one pack to another, depending on the size and depending to the external temperature to which this pack will be exposed. And this passive pack system should also be validated. As we have mentioned, the systems used for transport need to be validated. Either it is a reefer container or a validated truck, or it is passively packed system. Next comes the storage facility. This storage facility can be the central hub or the MMW, or it can be the facility for storage at the distributor itself. The main three activities in a warehouse is the receipt. When the shipment arrives to the warehouse, it is received by the people there in the warehouse. Then it is stored for a certain period of time. Then again, it is dispatched to its next destination. Good storage practice, it is that part of the quality assurance that ensures the quality of the pharmaceutical products is maintained by means of adequate control through its storage. The fundamentals here include personnel. There should be updated organization chart with defined responsibilities documented in job description, adequate number of qualified, regularly trained personnel, personal protective equipments appropriate to the activities should be used, such as the helmet, reflector vest, and the safety shoes. Here looks the warehouse when it is empty and when it is filled with products. So this storage area must be of sufficient capacity, should be clean and free from dust. The products handled in a way to prevent the contamination or mix-up. There should be adequate lighting to enable all the operations to be carried out accurately and safely. The temperature of all the storage area must be controlled within set limit and continuously monitored using calibrated devices. Here, as we mentioned, that each product, depending on its stability studies, have certain storage conditions. So during the storage, throughout all the storage period, it should be maintained within that acceptable range. And these should be recorded and stored, and kept data should be retrievable for at least 1 year after the shelf life of the product. These also pharmaceutical products, as we can see, should not be stored directly on the floor. They should always be kept off floor and suitably spaced to permit the cleaning and inspection. They also should be kept at least 6 inches away from the wall so that the proper airflow around the stock is ensured. Thermal mapping of the storage area is conducted to ensure the uniform temperature and identify the hot and cold spots in the storage area. Next comes the receipt and dispatch of the pharmaceutical products. There are 3 stages of receipt and 3 stages of dispatch. At the receipt, there should be quality inspection, where there must be verification of the seal. As we have mentioned, the pharmaceutical products should be transferred in sealed container or sealed trucks. There must be a seal that has a unique seal number. This unique is mentioned in the documents. This should be matching. If there is the seal in the during the physical receipt of stock is different from that in the documents, these should not be offloaded or opened until further quality decision is taken regarding this deviation. Also, the temperature of the product is checked before receipt, and the SKU, batch number, manufacturer, expiry dates, and quantity should be checked upon receipt against the receiving documents. If there is any damages found during the receiving process, these damages should be labeled and separated from the good stock. Then comes the stage of put away or racking, which after offloading of the products, these are placed in racks or in the different levels of the warehouse. This is also captured in what is called the WMS, or the warehouse management system. The dispatch process includes picking the stocks from the location and packing them. The different products for the same shipment are packed together. Then it is loaded into the truck or container, preparing to leave to its next destination. So incoming delivery should be checked against the relevant purchase order, and each container physically verified by the label description, batch number, and quantity. The receipt and dispatch areas should protect the products from the weather. Materials and pharmaceutical products should remain in quarantine until an authorized release or rejection is obtained. Rejected products cannot be used, and the warehouse should have separate and secured reject area. What does this mean? When receiving a product in the warehouse, it cannot simply be dispatched for its next destination until the quality of the product is assured. This is done by revising the shipment documents against the physical receipt, ensuring that there is no temperature excursion that has encountered or any deviation to the product, and that it has no deviation, no rejects. Then it is released by quality. Its status changes from under quarantine to release. This, after release by quality, it can be an order can be placed. Before that, we cannot transfer the stocks from one place to another or from one destination to another until it is approved by quality. Stock rotation and control. The stocks should be appropriately rotated on FIFO principle, which is the first out. There should be periodic stock, which means that the actual stock in the warehouse is compared to the stock in the WMS, or the warehouse management inventory system, where all the products are logged into the system, and their status and their batch number, manufacturer, and expiry dates are kept. So the physical should match ordered. This should be investigated. For return goods, there should be written procedures for the return. All return products should be placed in quarantine until the further decision is made based on the quality evaluation. Risk-based process should be followed when deciding on the fate of the return goods. This should include, but not limited to, the nature of the product, the storage condition of the product history, time lapse since distribution, and the manner and condition of transport while being returned. This means that the warehouse, then it is returned back to the warehouse. Will this be accepted and can be returned to sellable stock, or this should be rejected and moved to reject area? Analysis should take place and ensure that the temperature, since it has left the warehouse till it is returned back to the warehouse, has been maintained. There is no investigate and ensure there was no possibility that this can be replaced by another stock or counterfeit or anything. Time lapse, the storage condition of the stocks, usually not accepted for return, usually rejected. This depends on the risk-based process. Risk is assessed upon which the decision is made to either accept or reject. Recalls from the market. All recalled products should be secured, segregated, transported under condition. These should be clearly labeled as recalled products. Particular storage conditions apply. All records, including the distribution records, should be available and should contain sufficient information on the product supplied to the customer. Name, address, contact detail, batch number, and safety feature. The progress of a recall process should be recorded and final report issues. which includes reconciliation between delivered and recovered quantities of medical products. Finally, the complaints. All complaints should be recorded and appropriately investigation and the root cause identified and the impact assessed. There should be for a medical product or its packaging and those related to distribution. Medical product quality problems and suspected cases of substandard or falsified products identified should be handled according to the relevant authorized procedure. The information should be shared with the manufacturer and appropriate national and or regional regulatory authorities without any delay. Next is the quality management system.
Doctora, can we stop for the time being, maybe for 1 or 2, 3 minutes, coffee or juice or whatever refreshment, and we can ask our esteemed participants to ask any question they may recall from their mind from your last session. What do you think? Okay, no problem. Now we can have 5 or 10 minutes. See, this time we will make question and answers in reversed way. We will select some of the esteemed participants and we will ask him or her some questions. What do you think? Sure. We will reverse the strategy today. I see a number of participants decreased. Why? We will change. Okay, Dr. You can take water or some coffee for 1 or 2 minutes and we will come back. Dr. Aya, can we take some questions from participants who are looking to ask some questions, some technical questions? Because you know the mic right now, they can unmute their mics and they can ask their questions if they need. Alan, Dr. Aya, welcome back. I think there is no questions for the time being in the previous slide. So I think we can start with the quality management system. And we will combine all questions and make the session to respond to all of these questions in one time, okay? Okay, Doctor, please proceed.
This part of the session we will handle the quality management system. Actually, this is more into the practical daily work activities of people handling quality or working in the quality department. So first, what is this pharmaceutical quality management system? It is the set of procedures and practices that contribute to product quality. It targets individual processes and personnel involved in product manufacturing and prevent them from drifting away from the quality standard. Here, the quality function is not to find fault or to detect mistakes. It is to ensure that the quality guidelines are being implemented as per the set guides. So there are quality tools and fundamentals that should be there and followed in all organizations, either it is manufacturing, transport, or a warehouse. These are the risk management, deviation management, change management, or change control management, internal audit, or sometimes called self-inspection, supplier or vendor management, and document management. So we will go one by one. Quality risk management. The quality risk management is guidelines as per the ICH Q9, includes initiate quality risk management process. Then there's once an quality risk management is initiated or quality identified, there are 3 stages: risk assessment, risk control, and risk review. The first is the risk assessment. Risk assessment has 3 different stages, which is the risk identification. Simply, the risk identification is identifying what may go wrong. In any process I have, there may be certain deviations to the process or something can went wrong in this process. So this is what we call risk identification. We define what could happen other than the normal happy flow expected. Risk analysis includes that we define the likelihood and the severity of this risk. The likelihood means how often can this risk take place. It is a rare risk, it will not take place, rarely happen, or it is less likely, or it is usually occurring, likely to occur, or very frequently occurring, or it is day to day. We cannot skip this risk. It occurs almost every day or every month according to the classification. This likelihood is classified by each organization. Rare does not mean, for example, once in 2 years for all organization. It can be one risk for the organization. It sets gives the rates according to its condition. Then the severity of the risk means how severely can it impact the quality of the process. If it greatly impacts the product quality and lead to the rejection of the product, this can be catastrophic. Or it can be tolerated and won't greatly impact the quality, then we can say it is a negligible risk. Okay. Evaluation of the risk is giving this risk a score. The score is usually the multiplication of the likelihood and the severity. As you can see from the table on the screen, the likelihood is given numbers from 1 to 5, and the severity is also given numbers from 1 to 5. By multiplying the risk and the severity, we get risk scores. Then each organization can specify, depending on this score, the risk, and upon this score, how it will handle this risk. If a risk is rare to happen and have negligible impact on the product quality, then it is low risk. We can accept it as it is. If it is occurring more frequently or more likely, but it has major impact on the product, this will be critical. So here is another table defining the final risk scores: low, minor, major, critical, or catastrophic. Based on this score, we will take further decision, or the organization will decide what further decision to take. Risk control means have risk reduction and risk acceptance. Risk reduction means that we will take action to mitigate the severity and the probability, or to improve the detection of the risk. Maybe there is a risk and we cannot detect it, so it will have high impact on the product. Or if it is low risk, we can take the decision to accept this risk. In other guidelines, they can the decision can be to avoid the risk, or to accept it, or to reduce it, or transfer it. This is another classification, to transfer it so that it is this risk the organization cannot handle it, so it can give it to the third party for handling. Okay. Then comes the risk communication, means that the information of the risk is shared between the decision maker and others. Everyone handling a process related to pharmaceutical products must be aware of the risks associated with this process. For example, if we would say the risks associated with the receiving of raw material before the manufacturing step. So this process have risk. So all people handling this receiving process, either the warehouse who will be handling this or the operations staff who will be receiving, must be aware of the risk and aware of the control measures taken to avoid these risks, and should comply with these control measures in place. Risk review means that the output and the results of this risk management should be reviewed to take into account new knowledge and experience. Let us go back to the previous flow chart of the quality risk management. First, there is risk assessment, then risk control, then risk review. Here, there is an important part that after risk control, when control measures are taken to mitigate or reduce the risk to acceptable level, it is then reassessed again, because these new control measures or steps or activities we have implemented to reduce the risk can impact further, can pose further risk to the process. In this case, we may go to the first state before the implementation of it. So any steps or any decision taken must be assessed once more to review, to ensure that it does not pose further risk on the process.
So, Dr. Aya, quality assurance is the main part or the main department to be included in risk assessment, or to be interfere with the risk assessment, whatever its evaluation, identification, or taking the conclusion. As we understood in previous slides, quality assurance, here we can understand what's the relationship between different departments, including quality assurance, with what we are discussed right now as quality risk management.
Yeah, usually identification of the risk and the assessment of the risk is not done only by the quality assurance. Quality assurance must be involved, but any risk can be identified by anyone handling the process.
Yes.
Even the risk can be identified by the auditors. Either these are regulatory authorities or external bodies auditing the warehouse or auditing the manufacturing plant. So the identification is for assessment is not only quality, but quality must be involved.
Must be involved, yes.
Yeah, the decision to control the risk is a shared decision between the quality and the management who is responsible to approve this mitigation plan can have costs and need investment. So this needs to be accepted also by the management and approved by the management. Usually the risk review is done by quality. Okay.
Done. Thank you.
Okay. Then comes the deviation. The deviation, as we mentioned, when we assess the risk, this is a brainstorming process where we think of the risk before it happens or before a deviation occurs that may lead to deviation. But here, the deviation management, we are facing a real deviation. It already took place. So once a deviation took place, it should be reported to the relevant management and to the quality department. Then comes the root cause analysis. Then there will be a CAPA or corrective and preventive action plan, then action execution and verification and review. So we will take one by one. How we can identify a deviation? There are different sources of identifying a deviation. This can be from the operational staff. The staff observed a deviation, so they reported this deviation to the department manager or to the quality department. It can be complaints that have been received from the customers. Can be due to the internal audits. This observed or highlighted non-conformities or deviations, or regulatory inspection and quality reviews. The manner on how the personnel act when in presence of an event is the first challenge to the system. And it largely depends on the level of training, qualification, commitment, and support from upper management. When there is a deviation, it needs to be reported immediately and action taken, which is called correction. Correction is an immediate action taken. If you go to the slide, here before the corrective and preventive action plan, there is correction. Correction is not a decision, not necessarily a decision taken by quality. It is a decision taken by the staff. For example, if there is an ampoule filling machine that should be filling 2 milliliter of the drug solution into the ampoule, and it was observed that the amount filled in the solution is not 2 milliliter. It is 2.2 milliliter or 1.8, less or more than the acceptable range. So as a correcting action, we don't know what wrong has happened. Is there any deviation to the machine, the calibration of the machine, or anything went wrong? So the correction should taken in this part is to stop the filling, can be stopping the filling till adjusting the machine and checking the controls of the machine to avoid further deviation and further rejection of the ampoules, for example. Other example, in a warehouse, where the products have storage condition from 2 to 8 degrees. If the temperature in the warehouse reached 10 degrees, then an immediate correction is to put all the stocks in the warehouse on hold. This will prevent the system from picking it up and exporting this until an investigation is done and further corrective and preventive actions taken. So the first step after identifying the deviation and the immediate corrective actions come the root cause analysis. From its name, we identify the underlying cause or the root cause of this deviation. There are many ways for identifying the root cause analysis. I picked the 2 most common examples or techniques in the pharmaceutical industry. We have the fishbone diagram and the 5-why analysis. As you can see, the fishbone diagram is called the cause-effect diagram. First, we define the problem, and we using brainstorming can be done by a team of investigators, not only one investigator, from different departments that can detect what might have gone wrong that led to this deviation. Either equipment, process, people, material, environment, and measurement. From each cause, there is primary cause, and there is sub-causes in each primary cause. And we go one by one, excluding one by one, until we reach to the exact cause of the problem. For example, if we found that a product is contaminated, we have to check the material, manpower, method, machine, measurement, environment. What may have gone wrong with the material? It may be used after the expiry date. The material may be dirty. The raw material was contaminated. These are the possible causes related to the material. We investigate which one of them and exclude which is not relevant. Then the manpower, maybe the product was contaminated due to poor hygiene, or the people handling the product were not trained. Maybe the product was contaminated because of the procedure used for procedure was not correct or not followed, or the sampling was done in an incorrect way that was caused the product contamination. So the contamination occurred during sampling, or the machine, maybe it was not maintained, not validated, or it was defective. The measurement can be the solvent used was contaminated, so it gave false results of the product contamination, or that may be lab error due to calibration or the analysis, and so on. The second technique for conducting the root cause analysis is the 5 why analysis. We define the problem and we ask ourselves why this problem happened. Then when we get an answer to this question, we ask another why to that answer. This will be clarified by an example. For example, the conveyor belt on the main production line had stopped. So this is the problem we have, or the deviation we have. So the first question is to ask why the conveyor belt on the main production line has stopped. The answer will be because the main pulley responsible for rotating the belt is not functioning properly. Then to the answer, we ask another why. So why it was not functioning properly? Because it is not getting enough power from the motor. So then we ask another why it is not getting enough power from the motor? Because the motor has stopped working. Then why the motor had stopped working? Because the motor winding had burnt out. So why this had burnt out? Because the motor was loaded beyond its power capacity. So why the motor was overloaded? Because the instruction about the motor's maximum load were missing. So this is the most 2 common techniques, the fishbone diagram and the 5 why analysis, for identifying the root cause of the problem. So the problem is identified and the cause is known. What comes next is that we have action plan, or corrective and preventive action. We need to take action to eliminate the cause of this non-conformity, and thus we can prevent this deviation from reoccurrence. The preventive action is an action to eliminate the cause of potential non-conformity. But nowadays, we use correction and corrective action. Now it is preventive action is not used anymore, even in any of the ISO standards. It is used corrective and correction. So to have an action plan or an effective action plan, what needs to be there in the action plan? First, I need to have the action that will be executed or that has been approved by the quality to prevent the reoccurrence of the deviation. Second, we need to have the time frame when this action should be completed. and who will execute the action. If I have an action, an action and I have not identified who is responsible for executing the action, then it will not be executed. So I must nominate someone who will be responsible to execute this action in a certain time frame. And for every action, we need to have a reference. For every deviation, there should be had a reference, and for every action in this deviation, we should have a reference number to be able to track this action. Action executed and verification. So these actions need to be, actions of the action plan need to be approved by the management and the quality. And after the execution, this needs to be verified by the quality, which means that the quality needs to verify that this action was executed as planned. At the end comes the deviation review. After the implementation of the corrective and preventive action, these shall be monitored periodically for the effectiveness. As we have mentioned in the risk assessment, when we have an action plan to mitigate or reduce the risk, after implementation, we need to review for effectiveness. Here is the same case. After I have conducted the action or executed the action to avoid the occurrence of deviation, I need to review periodically for its effectiveness.
So, Dr. Aya, by this, if I have a robust deviation management system and I have prepared my proper CAPA, does this mean that the deviation happen, as you have said, conveyor belt? This deviation will not happen again, or it will be rarely happen in the coming future?
If I taken the corrective, actions and the control measures, this should not be happen again. And if there is a risk that this happen again, this should be identified in the risk assessment.
So do you think it may happen again, maybe due to improper training or some operators that need retraining? Because the CAPA, should be very strong to identify the gaps and implement the control measures. After that, there is a percentage of operation or personal error that mitigate to reach this deviation. Do you think this?
Actually, the action plan should include all the possible actions that avoid the reoccurrence. For example, yes. If I will, I can have one action is to update update the procedure to clarify that action
maximum load
should be done. Yeah, the maximum yes. load. Then the second action should be train the operators on the updated procedure. So if I take in the action and the action will be taken, for example, by the operations supervisor. Okay. The second action should be training the other operators by the operations supervisor. So they are aware, so that all people impacted or handling this area are aware of the new control measures or the new action taken.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Doctor.
Next comes the change control. The change control means a systematic approach to proposing, evaluating, approving, implementing, and reviewing change. This ensures that changes are implemented in a controlled and coordinated manner. Change control evaluates all the changes that affect the production and control of drug product, intermediates, or active pharmaceutical ingredients. The change management system ensures continual improvement is undertaken in a timely and effective manner and should provide high degree of assurance that there are no unintended consequences of change. What does this mean? When proposing any change to any process or activity, this should be in a controlled and approved manner. Following these steps, the first, there is change proposal that is to be, any employee can propose any change to the department manager and the quality assurance, which is then reviewed and evaluated, and classified if it is major or minor or urgent. Then an impact assessment is conducted. What is an impact assessment? I need to assess how this change will affect the different departments if applied. If this change will have a benefit more than the risk it will impose on the process, then it can be accepted. Otherwise, it can be rejected. So if the benefits of this change outweighs the risk, so it can be approved. After approval by quality, it can be implemented. And as any action taken in the quality, there should be verification of the change and evaluation of the process or the area after this change is implemented. Okay. Next come the internal audit or the self-inspection. So in order to monitor the implementation and compliance with the quality and GXP principles, as well as the compliance and effectiveness of SOPs, regular internal audits should be performed in accordance with an approved schedule. GXP means any guidelines. It can be good documentation practice, good distribution practice, good storage practice, good manufacturing practice. So it needs, we monitor the process and ensure it is complying with the guidelines. The team conducting the inspection should be free from bias, and individual members should have appropriate knowledge and experience. Audit findings and corrective actions should be documented. Agreed actions should be completed in a timely and effective manner. Important aspects of internal audit or self-inspection is the objective, scope, and criteria. All these needs to be very clear to the auditor and the auditee, and should be mentioned in the audit plan. The objective of the audit is usually to detect the extent of conformity with the audit criteria, evaluate the effectiveness of the quality management system, identify the risks and opportunities in the process. So the opportunities of opportunities for improvements are identified, as well as the risks, potential risks are identified during this audit. The scope means the factors such as locations, functions, activity, and processes to be audited, as well as the time period covered by the audit. The criteria of the audit is the reference to which I'm comparing the conformity or non-conformity. If I'm auditing against the processes or the SOPs, so this is the criteria of the audit. I'm checking if the actual or what is followed is complying with the process or not. It is complying with the regulatory requirements or not. It is complying with the guidelines or not. So this is the reference, the criteria, the reference to which I'm comparing the findings. The audit includes collecting information by means of appropriate sampling, and it is very important to have evidence. If anything, I cannot take a certain action or activity as being confirming or non-confirming without an evidence. And this is evaluated against the criteria of the audit, which is the reference I'm using against the audit. Audit findings are then reviewed and the conclusion is made for the audit report at the end of the audit. What does this audit sampling mean? Audit sampling is that I review part of the documents, take sample, I review some of the documents, because it is not practical to examine all the available information. The records will be too much. So it is the audits usually depends on sample selection. So how I can get the information upon which I will compare against the audit criteria? This can be through the interview with the employees and other individuals, observation of the activities and the surrounding work environment and conditions, The records, such as the minutes of meetings, records of monitoring programs, measurement results, checklists, batch records, data summaries, and performance indicator. So the audit finding should describe or reference to the audit criteria, as we mentioned, and there should be the evidence for that, and then declare if it is a conformity or non-conformity. The successful audit does not just depend on how many findings the auditor will have. There can be audits with only one finding or even no findings, but it depends on how practical it is, how the action plan or the corrective actions taken should improve or mitigate the risks identified or take advantage of the opportunities of improvement and apply. So the auditor who is conducting the audit must be ethical, fair and honest, open-minded, which means he is willing to consider alternative ideas or point of view, must be observant, taking care of the physical surroundings and activities taking place during the audit tour, perceptive, a way of unable to understand the situation, decisive and focused on achieving the objective, and culturally sensitive. This is usually when conducting audits abroad. Every culture has a certain, every organization or different countries has different cultures. So when auditing in different countries, we need to respect the culture of that country we are auditing.
So, Dr. Aya, this means that all organization systems could be subjected for internal audit or self-inspection, right?
Yeah, this is a must. It is not optional. Actually, there should be an audit schedule, and all the processes in the organization should be audited, not to find faults, as I have said, but to ensure that people are on the right track.
Yeah, you are right, because usually sometimes we use this internal audit to show some weakness in other departments, and we put black spot on their heads.
Yeah, exactly. This needs to be understood not only by the auditor but the auditee. The auditee must be aware that he is not. I should not hide any data from the auditor. He should be very open, because there may be risks to the process that people working in this area has not been yet identified. So by audit, more risks can be identified, and this would lead to proper actions to reduce or eliminate these risks to the process, to avoid deviations in the future.
So the auditee should understand that the internal auditor coming to his system for more development, for enhancement, not to show the weakness of his department or weakness of the people working in the department. So both of them should be open-minded to understand where is the weakness and how to correct this weakness.
Exactly, both of them, the auditor and the auditee, should have the same concepts.
Thank you, Doctor.
Now we have identified the risks, handled deviation, changes, and implemented the internal audit for identifying the risks and ensure that people are on track and complying with the procedures and guidelines. So then comes the supplier and vendor management. If any service or activity or material is bought or purchased from a supplier, this needs to go through several steps. First, before taking this supplier as an approved supplier, there must be initial assessment to outsources or initial qualification. And there should be defining the quality and responsibility of each party and what exactly is required and the quality of the product or service to be provided. This is usually defined in the quality agreement. Then comes the annual review, We should be, not only initial qualification is done and that's it. There should be annual review of the performance of this auditor, of this vendor. Sorry, should we continue with this vendor, or the performance is reduced after the initial qualification, and this needs to be changed to another vendor. Not only that, since we are dealing with pharmaceutical products and any impact on quality can affect people's health and affect their safety, any coming batch of this material should be monitored. As we have mentioned in the first part in the GMP, that when receiving raw materials or primary or secondary packaging material, these are sampled, and in the quality control department, this is tested and analyzed if it is meeting the specification or not. So this is the monitoring of incoming ingredients. So there is initial assessment, quality agreement, annual evaluation, and even for every batch or delivery of the product or this service, it should be assessed. Here comes the last and the most important part of the quality management system, which is the document control management. This includes coordinating, developing, issuing, and controlling documents to ensure that only current issues are in use by those employees requiring them. Documents are properly reviewed and approved prior to issue, and changes to documents are properly authorized to ensure that all documents will go through periodic revision, check for continuous suitability. Control document must have document name or title, reference number, revision number, number of pages, effective date, and amendments to the documents should be documented and traceable. All the documents should be approved by quality. So what does this mean? If I'm having a control document or a procedure, this procedure must have a title, reference number. I must know who prepared and reviewed and approved this document. The revision number of this, if I made any changes to this document, I give it a new revision number. For example, it is issued for the first time, it will take revision number 1. Then I need to update this and add more information or remove some information that is not relevant anymore. Then once updated, it gives another revision number. But after giving this another revision number, we need also to know what exactly the changes that took place. So the history of this change need to be documented. And all the control documents need to first be approved by the quality department. So we have many common documents in the pharmaceutical industry. Examples are here. The quality manual. This is a company documents that describe the regulations that the company is required to follow. Policies describe in general terms specific GMP aspects. Standard operating procedure, it is the step-by-step instructions for performing operational tasks and activity. For example, every activity should be documented and it should be accessible by people handling this process. The receiving of material from warehouse should have certain procedure. Even the gowning, if I'm working in a sterile manufacturing plant, there should be SOP showing how to change your clothes and wear the sterile clothes without getting it contaminated. The cleaning procedure, we should have a process or standard operating procedure on how to clean the tanks used for preparation or receiving of bulk products. Every step should be documented and should be used as a reference by operators or people handling this activity. Batch records, the documents used and completed by the manufacturing department. Batch records provide step-by-step instructions of production-related tasks and activities, besides including areas on the batch record itself for documenting such tasks. What does this mean? For every product, product X, product Y, this should be batch record. This batch record identifies all the materials used in the preparation of this batch, and the quantities, defines the steps one by one, and the production operators should sign and date every step once it is completed. Then this batch is used during the release process of the product before it leaves the manufacturing plant. In addition to the test, the batch record must be reviewed. And this batch record include both the manufacturing and the packaging. So there can be batch manufacturing record and batch packaging record. Test method, these are used and completed by the quality control departments. It is the step-by-step instructions for testing the supplies, materials, products, or other production-related tasks and activities. Specifications are documents that list the requirements that a supply, material, or product must meet before release for use or sale. The QC department will compare the test result with the specification so that they can reach the decision if this material passed the test or failed. Logbooks is usually for the machines or equipments. The operation, the maintenance, the calibration. It is usually bound collection of forms used to document activities. Data integrity is the maintenance of and assurance of data accuracy and consistency over its entire life cycle. Good documentation practice is a term that describes standards by which documents are created and maintained. As a general rule in quality, what is not documented has not happened or did not happen. Documentation control is not optional, it is a legal requirement. Good documentation practices ensure the integrity and the reliability of data. Documentation provides the route for auditors to assess the overall quality of operations within the company and the final product. In case of failure to ensure data integrity, this can lead to the loss of trust of regulatory authorities, failing patients, and will adversely affect the business and the company's reputation. There are some principles for the good documentation practice. It is called ALCOA principle, and now this is called ALCOA plus because more principles are added. ALCOA, ALCOA, refers to attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, accurate. Plus refers to the complete, consistent, enduring, and available. And even more can be added. Attributable means who did the action. There should be a signature log, and changes made to original entry must be signed and dated together with the reason of correction. Attributable means when an action is written or documented, we need to know who did that action. So we are keeping a signature log to identify the signature of those people who did the action. Currently, electronic signatures ensure that these documents are attributable to whom. Now, this computer system, when used, it should be validated. As we mentioned before, the computer systems also should be validated, and there should be login for each critical step. And as a safety and being attributable, it looks off after a certain period of time. Then each employee needs to have his own username and password. And of course, this should never be shared with any of the other employees. One of the important aspects of the computer system is that the audit trail must be available and display who performed the action. If there is, for example, a WMS or warehouse management system, we need to know if a product is moved from Quarantine status to approve status, we need to know who exactly changed the status of the product. This is called an audit trail. When there is step or action or activity done, we need to know who conducted this action or activity. In the paper work, it is signature and date. But in electronic system, we need to retrieve an audit trail during the validation of the system. We need to ensure that an audit trail can be available and retrieved at any time. This is the meaning of attributable. Legible means easily read, permanent, and for this, correction pen is not allowed in the GMP guidelines, GDP guidelines, good documentation practice. The use of correction pen is not allowed. In a batch record, in checklist, in any documents, it is not allowed. Changes made to data must to obscure or delete the original data, which means that if I made a mistake, I want to correct this mistake, I just make a single line to cross out, and still the original data must be readable and I can read what was written before the correction. Contemporaneous means on spot. The data is recorded on spot at the time they were generated or observed. So backdating is not allowed, and retrospective entry of missing information must include explanation, signature, and date. What does this mean? If I'm in a warehouse operative and I received a shipment and I did not fill the checklist, for example, the receiving checklist on time, then when I fill this checklist, I need to write the date which I filled the checklist, not the date I received the shipment. And there should be justification why it has not been recorded in time. The use of scrap paper or sticky notes for recording data before transfer it to the original form is not allowed. Original, we can also call this primary or raw data, which is the first information captured or recorded. This data should be returned throughout the entire data lifecycle. So all original records should be reviewed for completeness, and the reviewing frequency should be set. Accurate means simply the data is correct. I cannot enter wrong data. It must be free from error with no missing information. Data must be entered in the correct format. For this, machines and equipment generating the records or data must be qualified, validated, and maintained. So this is ALCOA principle. Attributable, as we have mentioned here. Attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, and accurate. Now further, or other principles is complete, consistent, enduring, and available. Complete, there should not be empty spaces specified for data entry. In case there is no data to fill in these spaces, we cross out this with a dated signature to exclude any doubts concerning missing the data. Consistent, the date and time stamps and records should be in the expected sequence and allow for complete and accurate representation of the data. Enduring, data kept throughout records retention period and ensure retrieval process will not negatively impact the records. Available means they are readily available upon request, and we can easily reach and retrieve these data. So these are the main principles or fundamentals of the quality management system.
So Dr. Aya, if you allow me to ask you, so ALCOA or ALCOA Plus is needed for a main important topic or main important principle called data integrity. Yeah. And data integrity actually in the past 10 to 20 years is the major part of shutdown of several organizations or manufacturers around the world. Yeah. Can you give us some let's say insight on this? Because, you know, data integrity is the hot topic, always discussed all over the conferences or whatever there is meetings with the health authorities or regulators. Data integrity come into the picture.
Yeah, I will ask you just one question. If you know that, for example, filter integrity test was not done, and it is recorded in the batch record that the filter integrity test has been done, you will trust this organization or be able to take medicine produced by this manufacturing plant? If the trust is broken once, you cannot retrieve it. So data integrity is the most important thing that keep trust of regulatory authorities and the patient trust this company and its products. How could I assure or ensure that this product is not adulterated? If the data is wrong and people are backdating what is done,
so the result is no quality. Product has no quality. This is the simple.
It's very important part.
Yes.
You can see that when there is an audit, internal audit or regulatory audit, they depend on what to
documents.
They depend on documents. They were not present. They were not present at the time of the manufacture or packaging of a certain batch, right?
Right.
So they can trace the history of the product from being raw material till it reaches the patient from
documents.
The documentation, batch manufacturing records, batch packaging record, the test results, the validation protocol for the processes, the calibration of the data logger, the
temperature
mapping of the warehouse, the training records of the employees. How can you ensure that these operation staff are doing what is
requested,
in the
or what is
how do you know that they are following the procedure? They must first know the procedure. Otherwise, I cannot tell you something verbally and you continue to do it in daily work and then you know it. You must be trained on it. And this training should be, as we have mentioned in the good manufacturing practice and good storage practice, we mentioned that regularly qualified, regularly trained personnel, right? If they are not regularly trained, they will forget, they will deviate. No one will, they must be updated. When there is any risk, there must be trained on this risk. So we can trace anything related to the product and its quality through documentation. And documentation is very, very important in assessing any deviation. When you have a deviation, if there is no good documentation for that product, you cannot identify the root cause of the deviation. So it is mainly the core of quality. If the good documentation practice and data integrity is lost, then as you have said, there is no quality can be ensured for the product. Even if all the steps, all the validation, all the tests are conducted, if it is not documented, then it is a rumor or it has not been done.
So this is our golden rule: not documented, not done. Finish.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You're right.
So to summarize, so what are the positions available in the quality? If now a person wants to join the quality department, what are the options available for him? There is manufacturing quality in the manufacturing plant and in the supply chain quality. So in the manufacturing plant, the quality assurance can work in the in-process control department, all the document control responsible for control of all the control documents like SOPs and batch records and the revision history and tracking all the changes and ensuring that only the relevant and effective versions of the documents are available for relevant stuff for use or as a validation officer. So usually the QA department in pharmaceutical companies are classified as in-process control department, document control department, and validation department. Or in the quality control, this can be chemistry lab or microbiology lab or the packaging lab. Also in supply chain, the quality in the supply chain is responsible for ensuring quality of the product is met during transport and storage. But in all cases, working in the quality position will handle all the 6 fundamentals of the quality, will be involved in the risk assessment, change management, change control, internal audits, document control, and the vendor assessment. In addition to these, quality control ensures that training track or training schedule is maintained and that every single person handling the product is trained as required on the procedures, relevant procedures to his scope of work and on the risks associated as well with these activities. So importance of quality assurance: comply with local and global regulatory requirements, assure quality, safety, and efficacy well designed and built into the product, public safeguard, and continually increase the production efficiency. So I would ask you to unmute your mics and let's discuss and have insights what could be the advantages and disadvantages of working in a quality department.
Actually, Doctor, I can maybe ask you, the quality assurance people, I can say that like they are government people, like police people, okay? They have authority, but they don't have huge salary. So usually I can say that the authority of, as their respective also, the authority of quality assurance people, you know, it's good for some people that they need to feel that they have authority, they have, let's say, influence on other people, they can provide their thoughts, their experience with others, they can share with authority given to them by their designation. So this is, as for me, I do clarify this. Quality assurance people, it's like police people, but without high salary.
Actually, they have authority on quality related decisions. They don't have authority on people. They are not
decision makers, let's say, or final decision makers in the organization.
Yeah, they are decision makers
at certain level.
So yeah, actually the quality officer shall have the ability to influence other with or without authority, and they should have broad understanding and knowledgeable with all aspects of the process, since he will be communicated with different departments. He needs to be aware of the quality control, the production, the engineering departments, and the validation department, maintenance. He will communicate with all other departments. So,
yes.
So he is any quality issue in any of the other departments, he will be the decision maker and the point of contact. So we need to understand the other processes, able to understand the investigation and the actions taken. If I don't understand the process, it will be difficult to accept or reject the root cause analysis, or accept or reject the action plan, or understand even the risks associated with the certain process.
So I think, Doctor, I can conclude from this quality assurance people, they have a lot of pressure, because as you have said here, they need to be the main contact for incidents impacting the product quality, purity, or effectiveness, whether happen maybe in a security gate or maybe happen in the production. So all of these incidents should considered a load in a QA person, even for QA head or QA manager, or maybe in our department, as an example, in our organization, there is several QA officers or senior officers specific responsibilities. This officer responsible for IBQA, this person responsible for issues related to engineering, this officer responsible for building management system, and so on. So, but in the whole cases, a QA person have a lot of pressure, a lot of load, because they are contacting with all departments in the organization.
One more thing that the QA people are facing, that people in other departments, it's a human nature, will not be willing to report the deviations in their department. So it is a challenge for the quality representative to raise the quality awareness among different departments, either manufacture or the warehouse. You need to raise the quality awareness, and operators need to be willing to report any deviation instead of hiding the deviation.
So this will not be happy for a QA, because all the time they will report deviations. In case also, if they don't have a quality management system, sorry, if they don't have a quality management or quality document system, electronic system.
No, I mean that when a deviation happens, it can be observed by the operation.
Yes, operator.
They will not report. Simply, they will not report.
I will give you example, doctor. Sometimes some analysts, they, as we have said, we have a procedure or test procedure. We have stepwise. You need to wait. You need to go. You need to do 1, 2, 3 till you put your vials in the HPLC or put your tablets in the dissolution or whatever. Some analysts, they deviate from set procedures or stepwise procedures, but this deviation does not affect the results or does not lead to out of specification. So the analyst by himself or herself, they know that they have deviated from the procedure, but for their luck, this deviation does not lead to out of specification. So if we increase the awareness of deviation, this means that the QC analyst need to report this deviation to QA and to proceed with deviation management.
Exactly. So I think the main challenges is built in the quality culture. Yes. So everyone should believe that it is really his responsibility to follow the quality fundamentals and to comply with all the fundamentals of quality, and to raise the awareness of the good documentation practice and data integrity issues. Yes. These are the two main challenges. Even if they are following the procedure quite well, sometimes they will not follow the good documentation practice. This is, I can say, from 100 deviations, at least 90 deviations are due to good not following the good documentation
practice. Right.
Exactly. So any questions? I've here added some of the guidelines and detailed so in case anyone wants to have more in-depth reading, mainly they are the WHO guidelines and the ICH guidelines and the Code of Federal Regulations 21 by FDA.
WHO and ICH.
Yeah, WHO, FDA, and ICH.
Dr. Aya, thank you so much for this interesting presentation. For me, because this is my personal opinion. For me, because I'm a regulatory affairs person, interfering with all departments, even with the security people, I'm interfering with them. So thank you so much. This is much more helpful for regulatory people, for people planning to work as a regulatory people, QC people, or QA people, or even a pharmacist, because, you know, as you have said, all of us should contribute to the quality of the product. So thank you so much. I would like to open the mic with the other colleagues if they have any questions, if they have any concerns that they need to understand to get an idea, we will be ready to answer them. And I hope that we have some participation from other colleagues that they are not working in pharmaceutical field, or sorry, in pharmaceutical manufacturing field. if there is a pharmacist in community pharmacist or what other fields, it will be more interesting to get their insights in this presentation. Dr. Munya,
مساء الخير دكتورة آية.
أهلا بك.
أهلين دكتورة. أنا بدي أتشكرك عن جد على البرزنتيشن، يعني إنه عن جد يعني كتير في معلومات قيمة وجديدة بالنسبة لنا. أنا عندي استفسار واحد بخصوص التريننج. هلا أنا على حسب ما بعرف أنا بشتغل بمجال Regulatory Affairs والفارماكوفيجيلانس. التريننج اوف امبلويز هو شيء كتير مهم بالكواليتي اشورنس. هلا هل هذا الشيء صحيح انه هو شيء انه يعني من القواعد المهمه بالكواليتي اشورنس؟ هذا اول سؤال. ثاني سؤال، do you think انه collaboration between quality assurance department with training department is important and it will have impact على البرفورمانس وعلى الكواليتي of the equality يعني بشكل عام يعني بالother departments. I mean إنه يكون في scheduled trainings، بيكون في collaboration مع ال quality assurance department ومع ال training department لحتى يعملوا training لكل ال employees بالcompany.
بالضبط. هو أنا ما رضيتش أحط التريننج في الفاندامنتالز بتاعة الكواليتي اشورنس عشان هي موجودة في الجي ام بي والجي اس بي والجي دي بي. Every guideline in the personnel department, you will find that the personnel should be qualified and be regularly trained. So it is a quality must in every quality guideline, either in the manufacturing, distribution, and packaging. Distribution and warehousing or storage. Usually, the quality needs is defined by the quality head, the quality training. The needs of the training in each department is defined by the quality head based on the operations of this department. For example, people working in the pharmaceutical manufacturing, they need to be trained on all the quality, on all the SOPs and guidelines related to the manufacturing. Those in the quality control, the same. Those in the warehouse need to be trained on the receiving process, handling of pallets and pharmaceutical products and dispatch. But the quality concept need to be trained at least annually for all departments, whatever they are in the manufacturing or in which department. These quality concepts needs to be trained in the deviation, the risks, the change control. All these needs to be clearly understood by every person handling product. In addition to training on the job-related procedures.
اوكي دكتورة، شكرا كثير لك.
عفوا عليك. دكتور علاء انت ميوتد مش سامعينك.
Dr. Aya, there is a question from one colleague, Atiq Rahman. He says, please mention, is there is any difference between regulations QA/QC for Middle East?
With respect to? Usually the quality regulations QA and QC is international. So this information in this session is from the ICH and from the FDA and from the WHO, and it is applicable here in Gulf countries, in Egypt, everywhere.
So we could not say that MENA countries different from Europe countries, different from CIS, different from North Africa, in terms of rules and regulations that control quality assurance and quality control departments.
No, I don't think there is a difference between these.
Because all of these, they are following the same standards.
Yeah, even you can be audited by nominated bodies, not from different countries. They can nominate to mention if you to get the GMP license. You can audit it not necessarily by your country. You can be audited by other countries, by other. You are in UAE, you can audit it remotely. So it's the GMP concepts are the same everywhere.
Okay, Dr. Aya, there is a question from Munia Al-Olewi. Is there a standard that specifies that the control of ambient conditions in a control laboratory is required? There is a standard that specifies that the control of ambient conditions in a control laboratory is required?
You mean that the quality control lab needs to have controlled conditions, temperature maintained between.
This is what I understood from the question. Does the quality control lab require control temperature, as example, to be maintained within the room temperature conditions? This is what I understood. This Monia says yes.
This depends on what is this quality control lab. If it is for packaging material and there is no storage conditions for the packaging material, and I'm testing the leaflet and the packing material, if they are meeting specification, the labeling, the font size, the color, the data in the leaflet is matching, then there is no need to control this temperature. But in the microbiology lab and in the chemistry lab, this needs to be controlled, because not only the product will be affected, but also the reagents I'm using. Maybe the reagent will, if it is stored in a certain temperature, it can be affected. When testing, we use reagents. These reagents may have certain storage conditions.
So Dr. Mania qualified that for control of a drug product, as you have said, Dr. Aya, in chemistry lab, sometimes we call
the microbiology.
I can add, Doctor, sometimes because why we need a control temperature and quality control lab, because sometimes during the preparation of samples, some products are affected by heat or affected. In case, as example, heat exertion reach 30 degrees, 35 degrees. Sometimes it may happen because some problems in BMS or problems on the air circulation system. So this will affect the stability. So we don't need to reach to the fact that we put the samples, we got the out of specification results because that the temperature in the lab was not controlled and the sample has been affected by temperature exertion. So this is why we need to be these labs, or either quality control lab for finished product, API, and even sometimes, Dr. Aya, for packaging material, because some packaging material affected by temperature. The outer carton sometimes coming as white, and once extended to where there is some temperature exertions, it converted to yellow or pale yellow or off-white sometimes. So this means that, to answer Dr. Munia, yes, we need a temperature control for the labs, controlling the finished product, packaging material, or active or inactive material.
Yeah.
I would like to ask some of our attendees. What do you think, Dr. Aya? We need to make a challenge test for the presentation. See, I will select. See, some people start log out. Why? Dr. Marwa Zaki, can you unmute your mic? Hello?
Yes, hello. I'm just joined. I'm so sorry. I didn't start from the beginning.
السلام عليكم دكتورة, كيف حالك?
Fine, good.
Okay, so just an assembly question. As you understood, or maybe you are in the field of manufacturing, or what's your field?
I'm quality officer of Baxter Kuwait.
Okay, perfect.
But I'm working with the distributor, not with the company.
Distributor. Okay.
Yes,
So
advanced technology company.
Perfect. So as example, so you are working with one of the principles of GXP as good storage and distribution practice.
Yes.
Okay, if you receive a shipment, okay, from outside with either from your client, from Europe as example, and you have the 3 pallets received in your warehouse, and you found that the ceiling has been broken, or there isn't a problem in the ceiling in one pallet or on in any of the part of the shipment. What should we do from your experience, or what you have understood from this presentation?
I didn't start from you from this presentation from beginning, but in this case, يعني, we have separate quality department for advanced technology company, but I am mainly working in pharmacovigilance and registration. I'm handling the field safety action and the temperature monitoring for the shipments and the quality complaint. Okay.
Perfect. Would you like to Dr. Aya to help us in this question?
Okay.
Dr. Aya, what do you think?
Can you repeat the exact question? Sorry.
The example, okay, you have a shipment, okay, received from outside in the receipt pay.
Yeah.
Okay, and one of you have the 3 pallets as an example. These pallets has been sealed, shrinked, whatever, and one of these pallets you found that there is a damage in a ceiling and damage in the one of the cartons inside the pallet. Okay, you describe this procedure while you have let's say illustrate us for good distribution and storage practice. What should we do as a quality assurance people, okay, and stores in charge? What they should do in this case?
First, when we receive,
you have already mentioned this in our presentation.
First, upon receipt of the shipment, it is inspected, and any damage should be segregated, counted and segregated, and moved to the damaged area. In the WMS, the status of these, for example, the packs on these pallets, the status is moved in the WMS to damage. What does this mean when the status in a WMS is in damaged location? It cannot be picked for orders, export orders. The WMS should be validated to pick only approved products in the approved status. In the damaged status, it is not approved. It is not possible to pick it for exports. This is the first thing. The second thing, we investigate the cause of the deviation. Maybe the shrink wrap was very tight.
So this is considered deviation, right?
It is a considered deviation, yeah.
Yes.
So we need to, this first step is this deviation needs to be reported to the quality.
Yes.
The quality will assign, the correction will be to move this damaged location, yes, and inform the stock controller to move these stocks to damaged status. This is the, yes, correction. After investigation,
this is the corrective actions, yeah.
This is the correction, so the immediate action or the correction. The corrective action is after the investigation and identifying the root cause.
Perfect. Okay, Doctor. So the sum of good practices, Dr. Aya, as you have today, you have mentioned the major important good practices, which is GMB, good documentation practice, good distribution and storage practice. The group of these good practices, as you have said, we mentioned as GXP. So GXP is the higher umbrella of the good of in everything, and subordinates or subparts or sub-good practices, including good clinical practice, good laboratory practice, good documentation practice, good distribution and storage practice. What else? What we have? Good pharmacovigilance practice also.
Yeah.
So everything should be good.
Yeah.
So this is why this is why highly quality products may contribute to the high price, or sometimes we understand the high price means that the product of high quality.
Yeah, if more control measures are taken, and this can impose a cost, if this cost will be reflected in the final product price. I can tell you that, for example, transport.
Yes.
The cost for road transport is much less than sea transport. But the quality of sea transport and air transport is higher, because the road transport can take up to 30 days. So this can impose higher risk. The truck can have accident or any delay. And if the shipment is passively packed, the passive packing has certain validation. For example, 3 days, 5 days, 7 days. After this validation, the temperature will rise. It will not, the passive pack, if it is validated to keep the temperature for only 3 days, then it will keep it for 3 days. The 4th day, an excursion may happen. So the less the timing for the transport process, will have less impact on product quality. And of course, if it is transported by sea, this is an added cost, but for road it is much less.
Yes. So too many factors that affect the product price, but there should be no deviation from quality. Dr. Aya, thank you so much for your time, for a well prepared presentation. I think also the majority of the participants enjoyed this presentation. I think there is no more questions today. Maybe people are sleeping or something like that. It's 10:16 right now in Dubai. So thank you so much. Thank you for the leaders for this presentation and this lesson for us. Actually, this is a good lesson for us in quality management. Also, I would like to thank IVB and regulatory represented by Dr. Osama. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Thank you, Dr. Aya.
Thank you. Bye.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.